Joining me now is Rob McEwen, Chair and Chief Owner of McEwen Mining, which owns a 48% stake in McEwen Copper, and Rob owns a personal stake in McEwen Copper as well, which makes sense because your name's on it, right? So,
Definitely.
Yeah. So great to see you. We did this about a year ago.
And happy to be here again.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, we had a great time at the Red Cloud Conference a while ago.
Yes.
So that was fun as well. So let's get into your topic, which you'll be delivering in a speech in just a little while today, making mining relevant to investors. What do you mean by that? Why did you choose that? Because I know you've talked about the sector being in a bit of a crisis, in part because a lot of people are leaving, older people retiring, dying off, and there's not enough young people coming in.
The title, that's a subtitle, making it relevant.
Okay.
Is Become a Nudist, Stop Mining.
Okay.
And it's really, you're seeing, as you said, at one end of the age spectrum of the workforce, there's 15 to 20% retiring or entering retirement very soon. And the negative perception of mining has caused a precipitous drop in the enrollment in schools of geology and mine engineering. So at a time when the metal markets are roaring ahead in certain places and we're looking at the energy transition and the need for new mines, the workforce is being constrained. And that is going to prevent a lot of mines coming on stream. There's going to be a lot of competition for talent. And so we need to look at how do we get the general public to understand the role of mining, the products that mining produces in their life, and show that there's some interesting opportunities for youth to try to increase the number of people coming through to school. But the people who are retiring, we're losing the teachers and the experience. So the industry has to look at this and say, really has to work on changing its image.
Right. We talked about this with Chad Williams of Red Cloud. How do you do that? It's through education, it's through various initiatives, and it's multi-pronged. How do you go about it?
Well, as you said, it's multi-pronged, but I think you have to focus on the opposition. And they've been very effective persuading most of the world to believe that extractive industries are bad. And we have to show them, one, that these extractive industries are the foundation of modern civilization. And without them, modern civilization would go through a cataclysmic collapse. If you took out oil and gas and you took out minerals, there are all sorts of things in this room that would just disappear. You wouldn't be able to travel because there are no planes with no metal. You wouldn't be able to get in your car. You wouldn't be able to use the utensils. You'd be eating with your hands. And so one is showing how integral that anything coming out of the ground we use to support modern civilization. The other is just saying there's opportunity here. Because there's a shrinking workforce, there's less competition. So if you're coming in, mining is high-paying jobs. It's like number one or number two highest-paying industries in the country. So you go, there's fewer people, less competition, higher probability that you could advance to the executive suite faster than most other industries. And you look at that, and it needs a variety of skills that most people don't think about. And I think we have to amplify this message as much as possible, and that'd be looking at saying, we're going to go to all our suppliers, our accountants, our lawyers, our investment bankers, commercial bankers, the unions, and say, hey, I want you to support mining. And I want you to put money and time into this because we're an important part of your business. Mm-hmm. And it's just like the listing fees that a grocery store charges to put a manufacturer's product on the shelf. And so that's one of it. So show how integral we are to everybody's life, relevant to everybody's life, how there is opportunity in this industry for youth, and just get more people talking about it and going to the government and saying, look, this is a large source of export dollars. It's a large employer. And if you look at the economic multiplier that mining provides, it's about 2 to 3 to 1. So every dollar in generates $2 or $3. If you work at a service industry or a retail store, every dollar going into that produces 60 cents of value. So it's a foundation stone for the economy and generates all sorts of other industries.
So that's a very good answer, very thorough, and that you presented some practical solutions there. Another solution I'm curious about potentially is McEwen Copper's Los Azules mine in Argentina. You're developing it, it's modern, it's going to have a small footprint, it's self-sustaining. So when young people see the plans for that, or when they've actually laid eyes on what you're building there, what's the reaction? And could that lure people and whereby they think, oh, that's not what I expected for mining. This actually looks pretty cool.
We've had a very positive reaction.
Mm-hmm.
People go, hey, that's really different. That's not what I thought about mining.
Yeah.
And you're quite right that we need to show the world that we're better than people perceive, and we're less damaging to the environment today than we were in the past. And the mining industry just has to change. Otherwise, it's, as I said, like here last year, it's going to get extinct.
Right. Okay, very good. So let's stick with McEwen Copper. So it has an implied value of about $800 million. You're planning to release a feasibility study in Q1 of 25. Can you give us just kind of a brief update on what's going on right now?
Yes, the drilling season is just ending. We had 22 drills on the property, which was a very large number of drills. We have, since we released our preliminary economic assessment back in June of last year, we've drilled 100,000 meters, and those will be incorporated in the feasibility study and in our geological model. And the reason we did so much drilling was to increase the confidence level in those resources and moving a lot of the inferred into an indicated or measured, and getting our payback pit well defined. So all the studies, the feasibility study, we're hoping to get an environmental permit in hand at the same time, and then after the feasibility study, looking to do IPO.
All right, very good. Now, in Argentina, you recently met with the new president, fairly new president, Milei. I saw a picture of that. You came away quite impressed. You thought he's very refreshing. He's creating optimism in the country. Can you tell us more about that meeting?
I can. It was a very encouraging meeting. He's a trained economist. He's very articulate and very sensible. He looks at Argentina and said it has all sorts of natural resources, but politics there in the past have prevented much foreign investment. And you have a country where 40% of the people are living under the poverty line. So the best way to deal with that is bring in industries or investments in industries that are capital intensive, employ a lot of people, pay a lot of taxes when they're up and running, and are long life. So he's looking to remove the exchange controls that have been keeping people out, stability agreement so that someone's not going to take it away from you after you put the money in, and reducing taxes. I mean, on our project, we looked at rough calculation, the net present value would increase by $1 billion. And that would be true. And the province we're in, San Juan, if you looked at the projects there's owned by Lundin and others, Fortescue and BHP, and there are all sorts of people just sitting, I feel, on one side of the fence looking at Argentina, over into Argentina. And if those regulations go through, there's going to be a lot of companies converging in Argentina because it would be a very, very positive statement.
Interesting. Now, with McEwen Mining, the stock since late February roughly is up 35%, let's call it, around there. To what do you attribute that move? Because we know that gold's at a record high now. The sector's starting to move. What's the main thing, do you think?
Our stock started really getting some movement back in September of 22 when we closed the first financing for the copper. And since that time, we're up, the other day we were up over 300%. So far outperforming gold, silver, copper, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the GDX, GDXJ by factors of 8 to 12 times.
I should have gone further back on the chart.
I mean, we came down a long way when
yeah.
we disappointed the market. But as soon as you bring in the second largest mining company in the world, Rio as an investor, the fourth largest car manufacturer in the world, suddenly this property took on a presence that no one was giving it credit for. And it had been obscured, its value had been obscured by the fall in the underperformance of our precious metals. And they're now performing better. They can get better, but that all is a nice trend. We, reduced our debt by 39%, our costs came down, our treasury increased. There were a lot of positives.
Right, and as you know, historically, McEwen Mining stock, when it runs, it really runs.
Yeah.
So, and just lastly here, gold at an all-time high. As we know, there are always multiple factors driving it, but you've got a U.S. debt burden of $34 trillion plus and rising. Is that the main one? Do you think that people are waking up to that?
A couple of things.
Yeah.
One, the money supply has expanded dramatically. And two, there's a lot of debt out there that was taken on when interest rates were sitting at close to zero or negative for a period of time. And with rates going up, it's making it difficult to hold on to certain things. There are banks with large portfolios of real estate loans you're going to have mortgages rolling over, and that's going to choke a lot of people. And so people are, and so the dollar's dropping because it's being diluted by all this issue, and the prospects aren't looking as good. So that's what's driving gold. You also have the BRIC nations, Brazil, China, Russia, India, converting a lot of their US dollar reserves into gold. Not a lot. I mean, it's a couple of percent right now, but they're active in the market, and the central banks for the last 2 years have been buying at a rate we haven't seen for 20, 30 years.
And just a quick one here. Do you think BRICS Plus will eventually come up with a currency backed by gold?
They're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
I think they might want to try to play that card.
Hence the central bank buying, possibly.
Well, they also want to get out of dollars because they have a view that they're going to drop in value. And the U.S., Washington, it's unintended consequences. They put sanctions on Russia. They put trade restrictions on China. And these countries said, well, you're denying us the freedom of movement of our assets. We're going to get out of dollars. And then the government seized assets. So they said, well, we better not be holding dollars, and we better not be holding it in certain places. So let's create our own banking system, transfer system. Let's buy gold. And by the way, we'll be dethroning the dollar as a reserve currency of the world. And so if there's less demand for the dollar, it's going to sink. And there's a large amount of treasuries that are coming due that have to come out at a higher interest rate.
Well, great to catch up, Rob.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. All right, great stuff. Rob McEwen, McEwen Mining, and McEwen Copper.